It is true, Nicholas Gibbs, that it is going to be a big day tomorrow. No matter what, no matter how it turns out, Wednesday, the 23rd of October, will be the lowest earnings report ever again for Tesla. What do you think? Yeah, the smallest earnings per share ever for the future. How did I say that? Did I say it wrong? Huh? There will never be an earnings report from now until forever, which will be at the lowest.
This is the bloopers, isn't it? This is how the bloopers start.
But we
You
get to
got
show the bloopers, yeah.
leave this in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I understand what you're saying. Moving forward, this will be the worst earnings we see for Tesla ever.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
That's what I tried to say.
I sure hope so. That'd be lovely.
Well, Gary Black came out with his numbers just a little while ago, and he came.
I can't see those. I'm blocked. I'm
blocked.
on the. I'm on the. Someone says things I don't like list.
Right. Well, Gary Black says that he's at 56 cents. He says Wall Street is at 60. James Catt is at 58, and he says Wall Street is at 58. So I'm not sure whether Wall Street's at 58 or 60. And then we've got a whole bunch of other people. But anyway, let's go along with Gary. He says, where to go? Never. So too hard to find. Anyway, 50. He thinks margins, gross margin X reg rebounding to 15.2, whereas Larry thinks it is only going to be 13.5. So we've got AJ at 50 cents. Troy raised his overnight from 49 to 55. He all of a sudden had a second coming or something. I don't know what happened there. And that's kind of the ones I've been following. What do you think about all of these estimates? What do you think of where the street really is and what's going to happen after?
A lot of questions there. Let me start off by saying, Gary, Troy, they have been so wrong about everything for so long. It's insane that people still listen to them. That's probably what got me on the block list. But that's fine. I just don't know how anybody can listen to people who just are wrong over and over and over again. So what do I think? I think that everybody who is caring about these earnings don't understand that they're irrelevant. They've been irrelevant. They've been irrelevant this entire year. The stock, Q1, we had the lowest delivery numbers in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Stock rallied.
Right.
Q2, okay quarter. Nothing special. Not too disastrous or anything like that. Stock went down a little bit, but then we started going back up to 260. Now here we are in Q3. We're back at 220. What does that tell you? What that tells you is that these quarterly numbers are irrelevant at this point. Tesla has officially moved over to an AI robotics company, and people are in there for that. Nobody is going to sell the stock off. Nobody is going to stop acquiring it. I'm not saying that all of Wall Street and everybody, all the hedge funds, all of them, I'm not saying that they're all going to dive in, because people like Gary Black want to wait until they see revenues printed on the income statements, which is fine. That's his prerogative, but it's too late at that point, in my opinion. Not too late, but you're already like at the third or fourth inning by then, probably. Right. Mm-hmm. You probably missed a big part of the run up. But moving forward, what matters is the pace of the technology. And it is not cogent, going back to Gary Black, sorry, I'm throwing left after right here, giving some combos, but it's not cogent to sit there and say that once Tesla solves this, everybody else will be right behind them. Like, that's the most idiotic statement I've ever seen, right? Like, how? If it takes all of these immense data centers to build, that the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen, even says that normally it would take 3 to 6 years just to stand this up, and Tesla does it in 19 days, or XAI does 19 days. So you can say same thing for Tesla. you got to pay for that. You got to figure out how to stand it up. It's going to take them 3 to 6 years. No cars have the hardware. They don't have the data. They don't have the expertise. They don't even have the they have none of it. So that's what matters. Everybody's starting to coalesce around this. You have the former founder of Waymo come out saying that Tesla's in the lead. You have Andrej Karpathy, who's removed now. I mean, sure, I'm sure he's a big investor still, so obviously he's biased on that front. But the Waymo CEO isn't. But Andrej Karpathy comes out and they're saying it might look like Waymo's ahead, but really it's Tesla at the end of the day. You just see all Uber CEO is starting to pander towards Tesla, trying to court them. It's just so freaking obvious at this point that everybody's coalescing towards this. So the earnings are irrelevant. The earnings, what's going to matter during this earnings call is not the numbers. Do they matter to a degree? Yes. I'm not saying they're irrelevant. They matter because Tesla still needs to generate a profit. They still need income because guess what? We've got a lot of stuff to do. But what's going to matter are the questions that sadly we're not asking because the say questions are awful. Like it's clear to me that institutional investors are in there putting the thumb on the scale because those are some of the. I don't want to cuss on your stream here, but those are some of the worst questions I've ever seen.
Right.
They are just. I don't know how else to say it. Like they're dumb. They're just dumb. Like this is a waste of time to answer any of those questions. I at this point hope that Elon sees those and says, let's go to the next 7 after these top ones. Like they're just idiotic. But so really now we kind of have a wasted earnings call because the numbers are going to be irrelevant.
Right.
The say questions are going to be irrelevant. So now, ironically, right, the irony of all ironies, going back to the, when all this started and Gali blew up because he asked the questions on YouTube, but the irony now we have to hope that the institutional investors ask some good questions about robotaxi and the follow-ups from AI day or we robot day and all that. Like that's what this earnings call is about. It's going to be that. It's going to be the questions they ask, the information we get from that. So the numbers, look, they're important, but they're like 30% important. The majority of this is all going to be about what we learned about. Do we still have the next gen vehicle, which I know is one of the questions on there, but look, we knew that the analysts were going to ask that already. We knew that. So why would you waste a question on that? Stupid, idiot moves. And then any other questions that they ask about We Robot. This is where us as institutional investors should have used our collective knowledge of what's going on and leverage that for some better questions. But that's what I think.
So, so Nick thinks that we should have kept in what we just took out because it was hilarious. I inhaled a bit of spittle and was trying my best to wait for Nick to get to a break so I could cough my lungs out. And so if I'm still a little rough or anyway, Nick, great soliloquy. We loved every minute of it. Now, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth, Randy. You just wanted that. You want to pause it so you could tell me, Nick, stop it. You're being too harsh on Gary Black and Troy Tesla. That's why he's trying to silence me, people. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. Now that we've completely lost everything that we had planned. Okay. So we have an agreement, by the way. I've been saying for 2 days now on my show that this is the most irrelevant earnings call in history. We are now going into a new era, a new age. The stock is going to go up from here. It might go down. We could go down to 180, 190 over the next couple of few weeks because of expectations about numbers for the fourth quarter, et cetera. But basically, hang in there. 12 months from now, it will be a very, very, very different company and a very, very different stock price. And I know that you agree with that. All right. So, but one of the big things that came out in just the last little bit is, which is completely relevant to the issue of going into the next era, is ironic because this morning I was sitting here, I was trying to figure out how to do a show around the idea of an FSD unsupervised beta program. where they would release it first in beta so that people would actually apply or volunteer to drive their car around town, sitting in the passenger seat, going from location to location as they did their normal stuff. And that would be like a beta program. They would still be in the car, still be able to see what's going on, but Tesla would get data based on a real, actual taxi situation. But as lovely, as wonderful as that idea may or may not have been, and you don't need to comment one way or the other, apparently Tesla is one step ahead of me. So tell me the story. Something has happened to your sound.
It helps when I unmute.
Okay. This is definitely the blooper show.
Yeah, seriously. We're on the hinge today, folks. Here we go. 14 days till election. Go register, go vote. Doesn't matter who you vote for, just go vote. It's your patriotic duty, in my opinion. Randy, can you give me permissions to share my screen?
You have,
because
I will do exactly.
I do not have permissions.
I'm working.
So
Keep
thank you.
so talking.
I
did not do well.
All right.
I blooped again. We have to.
Anybody who's still on here, I promise you, we are not inebriated. We are not intoxicated with anything. This is just reality. This is
it's available.
Let's lock it in here.
Okay. All right.
So we just had some breaking news regarding Tesla Cybercab and what may be the first pilot site for the Cybercab. Okay, so what I want to do now is share with all of you what just came out. So let me hope that I'm sharing the right screen. Hopefully you guys can see it here. Randy, can you confirm you see Sawyer here?
Here we go. Sawyer Merritt. Yep.
Beautiful. All right, I'm gonna try to zoom in so you guys see it better. So go find this. You guys all follow Sawyer, I'm sure of it. So go check this out. Watch the video yourself. But he says, here's Palo Alto lawmaker Greg Tanaka confirming that they are in talks with Tesla to potentially allow testing of their robotaxi on local roads. Greg attended Tesla Cybercab unveiling on October 10th and called it very impressive.
Wow.
Quote, Tesla has the technology. They have the hardware, but they're looking for the test areas. That's where Palo Alto comes in. There wouldn't be any charge to the city, so we could provide this service to the community at really great prices. One issue, though, that has to be determined is while they have the technology and the hardware, they don't have the license to pick people up. So there are discussions about Tesla potentially going under Palo Alto's license. This potentially would allow Tesla to start doing robotaxi rides in the area much sooner. So there's a video there. You guys go watch it. This is all breaking right now as we're recording. So this is really exciting stuff. Randy, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think so. So again, it's so weird because I just had the thought this morning, and they needed something. They've always needed some kind of transition. They needed either to put their drivers out in the wild, possibly sitting in the passenger seat, or some kind of an area where there's hardly anything going on where they could drive the cars. So they needed something to make this transition in order to be able to talk to regulators and talk to cities, et cetera, et cetera. So it appears, as I said, they were way ahead. They obviously invited Palo Alto to attend the 1010 situation, and looks like they're well on the road here, so to speak, to getting something done.
Yeah. So I imagine a lot of the listeners don't understand like what Palo Alto looks like what the city is. I'll give my perspective. I mean, you, I believe, live in California, right? So I'll let you.
Long way from me, and I've been to Palo Alto, I think, once.
Okay. Well, then we won't listen to you. We'll listen to me because I've been there a lot. Palo Alto is not what everybody thinks it is. It's not Silicon Valley like what we see in movies, TV, all that. That's more San Fran, if you will. Really, Palo Alto and the real kind of tech area, yeah, San Fran is part of it, but it's really San Jose and Palo Alto. Palo Alto is kind of a small little quaint town. It's not a robust city. It's not what you would think, like all these mega skyscrapers and all that. It's really quaint. It's kind of small. It's got a nice little downtown. It feels more of like if you live in New York or Long Island, it's like a little village, is what it feels like. Actually, a lot of California kind of feels like it's got like these like little pockets of like little villages. Uh, yeah. So it's not like this would be testing like some big major area, but I think what's most profound about this is that they would be testing this out with the cyber cab. So this, from my interpretation, is something that just happened. So this is my stream of consciousness thoughts without putting too much real intelligence into it. Is that this is for the cyber cab, but this is completely separate from what Elon talked about with the Texas and California start for a robotaxi network in 2025. To me, that is Model 3, Model Y, which he said at We Robot Day. This announcement is about Cybercab specifically. So I think this is excellent. If we can go into 2025 and start deploying 3s and Ys, S's and X's in Texas and California, that hopefully can go, pretty wide. And as Cybercab starts testing out in Palo Alto, wow, what a year 2025 will be. That will be extremely exciting.
So it would seem to me that the cyber cab, if in fact that's what it's going to be, and we know they've got 20, so how hard could it be to build 20 more? Anyway, whatever they want to do, however many they want to put it in Palo Alto, in order to generate the data and get get kind of the bugs worked out, if you will. It would seem to me that all of that data then is backwards deployable to what a Model 3 or Model Y would be doing anyway. So to the extent that California or Texas is having questions about safety, et cetera, this information, if they generated it before that release, would be helpful to make the case.
I agree.
No. All right. Okay. So that's the big news of the day that just broke. So you're getting the breaking news right here, along with, the bloopers. They just keep coming. Let's see. So let's go down to the next story. So we had those 7 questions that were not great. What else would you like to hear? What is the top of your list in terms of questions for tomorrow?
So that's a good question. So I honestly haven't put a lot of thought into this. I think, when it comes to asking questions, I would probably ask if there's any progress or any more details that they can share with regards to licensing out FSD. I think that'd be interesting because we know that that's been a topic Elon doesn't mind touching on during an earnings call. So I think that's safe where we could potentially get more information. I also would probably poke and prod a little more about the deployment of a robotaxi network in Texas and California with 3s and Ys, S's and X's. I would probably ask him, okay, so you said that We Robot. Did you mean statewide? And how are you thinking about that? And then I guess as a follow-up to it, would this start off with a safety driver behind the wheel, or would we just go fully autonomous? How do you see this rolling out?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what about, I was thinking that we've made this big, massive investment in the NVIDIA chips for Austin. And we've got an already installed supercomputer that they've been using for years that's already gotten us to this point. And then we've got a dojo, 100 exaflop, that is supposed to be fully built out now, October of 2024.
100 or 30 exaflop?
Huh?
I think it's 100 exaflop or 30 exaflop.
100 by now, yeah. By October of this year, it was supposed to be all the first.
Yeah.
Flops.
Everybody else can fact check me. I think that was encompassing of the NVIDIA, not just
so?
Dojo. I think Dojo alone is 30 exaflop. I could be wrong.
Okay, all right.
Semantics. That's got nothing to do with your point. Sorry.
My point is all of the now look, if all that it ever did was make the Tesla robotaxi network successful and Optimus successful, it would pay for itself many times over. I just suspect, however, that that's more compute that they're going to need to get those two jobs. What do you think?
No.
Oh, you think it'll take all of it?
They're probably going to need to 10x it, is my guess.
Or just robotaxi and Optimus?
Not more so for Optimus than just robotaxi. I think they'll eventually have to 10x it.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. Holy mackerel. Okay. All right. So,
I mean, look, it doesn't. Let me walk you through it. Think of all the maneuvers, all the things that a vehicle has to see.
right.
Now, a vehicle versus a human navigating the world, do you think that's only 10x more complicated?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's 100x, 1000x?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, just look, there's a lot of things that you could say are similar, right? A car has to be able to drive on the road, on a bumpy road, when it's raining, when it's foggy, when it's snowing. A human needs to walk in all those terrains as well, right? But a human also needs to know how to go uphill, downhill, upstairs, slopes, different steepness of stairs, stepping over things, stepping around things, and that's just like surface level, right? How do you grab something when it's at the top shelf or bottom shelf? What about weight distribution? How about force of grabbing things? What about if you need to make something? Right? How do you get the ingredients? Now I have to read the back of a package for ingredients. How do I know it's the right thing? If it's dairy free, if someone's allergic to peanuts, if I need to fold certain clothes, if I need to fit it into a drawer, the perception of it is the drawer full, is it not full? A bucket, if I have to pick up a bucket and it's got water on it, that carries a little differently than if I just have something that weighs a certain amount. If I need to watch a dog or walk a dog, right? A dog will move in and out, right? How tight do I pull in that leash without hurting the dog? I mean, like, you can just go forever with this. So yeah,
I
Optimus.
I think you've thought about this.
Oh yeah, it's immense, right? I mean, laying bricks, laying cinder blocks, putting up drywall. I mean, like, you can go on ripping out floors, right? You don't have to be as gentle on that. Putting cabinets on a cabinet, like, you have to be very precise with that. I mean, you could just go on and on.
Building a manufacturing plant on Mars.
Exactly.
So, okay. So that answers my question. I don't need to have anybody ask that one then. I thought maybe there would be other things that they were planning. Well, we know he's talked about using it for other things, but the question is, maybe that's still in the future as the
Optimus is like the final product
final product
of all products. Like, just think about it.
Yeah.
It is the final product of all products. Like, what technology is there after a humanoid that can do everything a human can do at scale? Like, what is there? What like, I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing if you really think about it.
Oh, it definitely is that. It's been blowing my mind for a while now. All right, on the economic side, multiple headlines today in the financial press are saying that the markets are starting to plug in a Trump win. And that part of that bet is it'll be a strong economy, not going to see that recession we've been talking about. And we're not likely to see the interest rates going down in the next 12 months as expected, might even see them going back up. And so we had Druckenmiller the other day, I mentioned this with Larry last night, taking a massive bet that interest rate or that treasuries will be going up, a massive bet. So what do you think? Oh, let me give you one more quote. I'll give you more time to think. Wall Street Journal quotes Dan Loeb. We believe the proposed America First policies, tariffs, will increase domestic manufacturing, infrastructure spending, and prices of certain materials and commodities. Dan Loeb writes in an investor letter. We also believe that a reduction in regulation generally and especially in the activist antitrust stance of the Biden-Harris administration will unleash productivity and a wave of corporate activity. And that would therefore, of course, now, if we get a lot of productivity, we could avoid a massive inflation increase. If we don't get that productivity fast enough and the economy starts bursting at its seams again, we could see inflation, especially because the government's still printing money and nobody really expects Trump to really start making any cuts in that. What do you think about all of that? Is that a big enough subject?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. I go on these rants, but you give me such
Yeah, I know.
such a big aperture and such deep topics that I try to say as much as I can, but there's just so much nuance that has to go into everything. So our responses are high level. So again, forgive me, we only have so much time here.
Sure.
Let's start with Drunken Miller. Drunken Miller has been talking about the right things for a very long time. He's talked about our national debt. He's talked about Social Security. He's talked about the asymmetric population size of the baby boomers and the lost generation versus the millennials and Gen Z. Right? He's been right about all of this for so long, but his predictions have not come to fruition for a long time either, with the results of what will happen. Now, it may just be that enough time hasn't gone by, but that's like with every person who's talks about a doomsday. Not saying that he's a doomsday person, but anybody who thinks that a bad outcome is going to happen, if enough time goes by, eventually they'll be proven right. But
Right.
what's the lost opportunity between now and then?
Right.
So just I would say always keep that in the back of your mind. It's not like Stanley Drunken Miller is out of the markets. He's most certainly invested. But all I'm saying, if you don't know who he is, if you start looking it up, you'll see a whole bunch of his. Again, it's not fear mongering. It's just his predictions of like the problems we have and what results will happen. You might start to think, oh no, I should be out of the markets or whatever. Which leads me into this conversation about inflation, manufacturing, all that. I said this last week. I'll say it again. We are going to have extreme inflation, and it's going to be good, in my opinion. It's not going to be inflation like we see today. There's two types of inflation. Okay, maybe there's many types of inflation, but in my mind, there's two that I'm thinking about in this moment when I'm preaching. The first is this crappy inflation we see right now, where eggs are stupid expensive, lumber shot through the roof, copper got really expensive. You go to a restaurant, and to this day, you're like, how? Come on. Like, are you kidding me? But then there's a second type of inflation, which we have. You know how everybody says that we've had such low inflation for the last 40 years, yada, yada, yada. Wrong. Not true. We have had inflation. It's just that most people don't experience it in their day-to-day lives. Where was that inflation? That inflation was in assets.
No.
The stock market, housing, real estate, those got inflated. That was good inflation. Why? Because that means we're all profiting. And that's good for the U.S. economy, especially as a reserve currency country. It helps us kind of keep our debt in check, even though it's not in check, right? So I think we're going to go into that type of inflation again. Everybody who's sitting here hoping that home prices go down, good luck. I bet you money won't happen. We have over 5 million housing shortage. Rates are coming down. Housing prices are going to go up. It's just it's math. It's the math is the only way I can say it. Asset price. Look, you're seeing the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, Nvidia, Meta, Apple. All these companies are hitting all-time highs. Why is that? Well, because like what I'm saying, asset inflations are going to happen, and we want that. Why do we want that? Well, because we have a lot of debt as a country, and so there's two ways to take care of that, or to at least keep it in check. One,
Three.
Three. Okay, well, we'll see what you say in a second. One is to have so much growth that becomes kind of irrelevant because you're kind of growing your way out of it, right? Think of it this way. If you have a lot of debt in your day-to-day lives, right? You buy that fancy car, you get that expensive house, you're constantly going out to eat. It doesn't matter if you're getting pay raises that are crazy every single year, right? Because your revenue is growing way more than what your debt is. That's a good problem. The other way would be to cut your expenses, right? So to me, it's kind of a binary situation. Randy says 3. He'll correct me. I'm wrong. He's probably right.
The 3 would be that the government cuts its expenses. So that would be,
well, that's
the government stops printing money. That would be, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, and here's another misnomer. Okay, everybody's always saying like, "Oh, China owns us because they have all our debt," and you hear all this crap. It's not true. Okay, China actually doesn't have that much of our debt anymore. The biggest owner of U.S. debt is who? Us. We own it. We own most of our debt. Here's my wife. She's trying. This is the blooper episode. So I don't know what she's doing. She should just close the door or come in.
Go ahead.
Wow. Oh, she just got out of the shower. Yeah, that was not a good look. That was actually really bad. That is not what she actually looks like. You can leave that in. It's fine. Oh, nope, never mind. Take that out. She doesn't like that. Anyways, so that's essentially where we're at. I forgot what the main topic was. I got thrown off here.
How are we? So basically, to kind of bring us back, we have Trump. If he went, so people are now plotting. They're starting to get their finances arranged based on a Trump victory. On the one hand, they're expecting a booming market. They're expecting manufacturing to come back, which would be great. They're expecting, therefore, some infrastructure building to take place in terms of new buildings, manufacturing plants, et cetera. That would be great. Probably home building would come back as well. So we've got a lot of positive things going on. But if the economy is that strong, then typically what you see is that there's not enough goods to go around. And so you get inflation of that type. In the meantime, nobody says that Trump is planning to cut spending. That hasn't been part of yes, he wants to have a more efficient government, but he hasn't said he's going to actually cut spending. And last time he didn't cut spending. So people are saying the government will continue to spend like a drunken sailor. So how do you keep inflation out of the picture going forward?
Okay, is that what Randy thinks, or are you saying that's what people say?
That's what people are saying.
Okay, so the deficit went up under Trump. Yes. It did.
Even before COVID.
And you can I take issue with that statement. Let me explain first. The constant FUD is fear, uncertainty, doubt that's thrown towards Trump in his first term is that the debt went up to record levels, that he had the most job losses under his presidency, all this stuff. But all of it started because of COVID, okay? Now, you can sit there and say that the deficit still went up under his presidency before COVID. Mm-hmm. True. But what you're missing is where were things going, right? Mm-hmm. That'd be like me saying that I invested into a company and it went down, the next month. So that's it. I lost money, right? No, BS, right? Mm-hmm. It takes time. I have to put money out to make money. Right. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. I think if COVID didn't happen, you would have seen a lot of the fruits start to bear from everything that he was doing. And I think what I'll push back on what you said before, and again, I don't know if it's your stance or if you're just kind of echoing what other people are saying, he has talked about cutting spending. He has. That's the whole point of aligning with Elon. That's the whole point of aligning with RFK, right? There's lots of government waste. And I think at this point, Trump, he's not an idiot. He knows we got to balance our budget. He wants to negotiate. He wants to cut costs on. He talks all the time about the Air Force One, how he cut it by $2 billion. Right? He talks about all the time. He's not unaware of our problem. He will go down in history as the greatest president of all time if he does two things. One, get our house in order when it comes to spending, and two, has another 4 years without starting any wars and resolves Russia, Ukraine, Palestine, and Israel. He'll go down as the greatest president, I think, of all time, because that will be twice he has done it. I mean, all right, let me take it with a grain of salt. Well, you know what? No, I will say he'll go as one of.
Finish up the Abraham Accords. Add that one in there.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because, again, look, maybe he'd be top two, him and Lincoln. The reason I say that is because Lincoln had a existential crisis for the Union as well with the Civil War.
Right.
And I think what Trump would be fixing is the existential threat that we have, which would be ending the United States experiment, because we are so out of line when it comes to our debts. All right. So there's got to be someone who does it. Somebody's got to finally put an end to this. And somebody's going to have to do all the hard things. Look at Social Security. Look at Medicare. Look at everything. Look at the military budget. Everything is on the table. And it needs to happen. Like there's no, and that's where I think Trump is the only person that can do it. Because up to this point, I would have said no Republican can really do it, because, yeah, they'll touch Social Security, they'll touch Medicare, they'll touch all these social programs, but they'll never touch the military budget. And no Democrat would ever do it because, yeah, they'll touch the military, but they don't want to touch the social. Right. Well, guess what? Trump, not a war hawk. He'll touch the military budget. Trump doesn't care. I don't think he cares that much about any of the welfare programs. He'll touch them. They all need to be radically reformed. And I love the idea of bringing Elon, because Elon's philosophy is cut so much that you need to bring back 10%.
Right.
So I really think that this is the medicine our country is going to need. And the only way you can do it is with someone like Trump, who he's got nothing to lose. He has literally nothing. He doesn't have to worry about re-election.
Yeah.
If he does this right, his legacy will be cemented.
Yep.
Money means nothing to him at this point, right? It's not like he's got to worry about.
His reputation can only get better.
It can only get better. And Elon is kind of the same way, right?
Right.
So, I mean, this is a team that's a once in a country's lifetime to fix it, to prevent every single dynasty in China, to prevent a Roman type outcome, to prevent a Greek type outcome, to prevent a British Empire. Remember, the sun used to never set on the British Empire, right? To prevent all these outcomes, this is a once in a union's lifetime opportunity. And so go ahead.
And with any luck at all, he also brings in those two South Asians, Vivek and Chamath, to help him with this effort as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, today, interesting story from the Wall Street Journal, checking on those EV charging stations that Biden-Harris administration is supposed to be rolling out. It says almost 3 years later, the program has created 69 ports, not 69 stations, 69 ports, fewer than the rest of the EV sector produces every day. There's been widespread complaints that about what one Washington Post article calls the program's painfully slow rollout. The delays are due in part to regulations encouraging unionization, as well as the administration's goal that at least 40% of clean energy investments benefit disadvantaged communities, the areas that least need an EV charger. Anyway, meanwhile, Tesla today announced a new station in Lost Hills, California, that will have 168 ports powered by 11 megawatts of ground mount solar and 10 megapacks. So would this be emblematic of what you just actually said? Is this like the future, the past versus the future?
Randy, let me apologize. Can I put one more thought on what we were just talking about?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I feel pretty passionate about this one. With regards to what could potentially happen with a Trump and Elon teaming together, Laura Trump was just on with Charlemagne the God,
Mhm.
really big
Yes.
podcast, radio voice. Um, very, he says he's not, but very liberal, right? She was on there and she was accounting a story about how Trump knocked out ISIS. And what she was talking about was Trump asked generals, how long will this take to wipe out ISIS? And they said 3 to 4 years, because like we have to go, we have to ask you if this okay, and we have to back and forth, back and forth. Apparently, Trump said to them, "Look, I don't know anything about war. You don't need to come to me. Go get the job done, and come back to me when it's done." 3 months later, ISIS was wiped out. I have a feeling that you would see a very similar thing with Elon when it comes to cutting for the government. I feel like Trump would say, Elon, go. Go figure out what we got to do. Go tell us what to cut. Then let me know and we'll do it. And let's get it going. Let's do this in the first 90 days or something
Right.
like that. I think he's like, we're not messing around. I got 4 years. We don't got time to waste, right? We need to do this yesterday, you know? So I kind of think that that's going to happen. And so you just brought up the charging stations and all that, right? It's no different than the whole internet fiasco, right? Into all these rural areas. $42 billion. Where is it? Why are we even spending $42 billion on that? We could probably neutralize our deficit just by cutting on BS.
Stupid stuff.
Yes. I honestly, I think most people in their own households could neutralize their own deficits just by cutting out BS. So I truly think that this is what's going to happen. Um, sorry, I really want to make that point
Sure.
because it's analogous with what we're talking about.
Sure.
One is about taking out ISIS, but this is arguably more of an existential threat
Sure.
about taking care of our deficit.
Yeah, absolutely right. All right. Well, with very quickly, let's take a look at what happened today, as we always do. And that would be that the Dow ended up only down 671 after being down a whole bunch and actually being up for a minute, but basically neutral for the day. NASDAQ up 33. It was also up and down a little bit. S&P, same thing, ended up down $2, 2.78 cents. Cents, dollars and cents. You see, it looks like dollars and cents. I'm blooping again. 2.78. Call it flat for the day. And Tesla also 0.88. That would be 88 cents this time for the day, down. In the after hours, Tesla down another 48 cents in the after hours. I said at the beginning of the week, Tesla would drift down into Wednesday. Apparently, I got another one right. That makes two. In 2 years, twice right. I mean, that's pretty good. Anyway, so then we had the magnificent Apple took a little bit of a day off today. The rest of the Magnificent Seven were up except for NVIDIA, which was flat. Meta went up nicely today because they're doing something. I forget. Never mind. We won't go into that right now. Let's look at the bonds because that's where the action is. The bonds are where the action is. This is the thing we've just been talking about. And let's see if the after hours has continued the action that we were looking at earlier today. And what we will see is that the 10-year is up another 0.8 of a basis point to 4.214. So Druckenmiller has already made money. He could cover his short right now and say, look, I got it. Because it's gone up ever since he put in the short. The stock has gone, the bonds have gone down, the yields have gone up. 2-month up 2.3 basis points in the after hours, and the 2-year 0.5 of a basis point. So all in all, the bonds are going up. What do you think? Is there any chance in the world, do you think, at this point, 2 days after the election, that the Fed says, never mind, no cut?
That's a good question. That's actually a really good question. Um, that's a really good question. You know why it's such a good question? Because the Fed's been very predictable based on what the bonds are doing. Um, and it's literally been like clockwork. You can just look at the bonds and tell what the Fed's going to do. Um, it's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't even know how to opine on that. Um, I do think, look, I think there's a big forcing mechanism right now, and that's our not to always talk about our debts, but that's our interest payments.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of pressure to get rates down because our interest rates are getting ridiculous. And it's not like our spending is shrinking.
Yeah.
And so as our spending grows, our interest rate is growing.
Right.
And when you throw on higher rates, it hurts. So like the only way, like government's not slowing down spending. So the only way you can try to control the interest payments we have to make is by lowering rates. So so you just have to hope that that doesn't all of a sudden spark bad inflation,
Right.
right? And it's tough, and the Fed needs to try to stay, you know, politically agnostic, which I generally think they are right now,
Right.
because I Jerome Powell knows this is it for him.
Right.
So he's more so thinking legacy, which bodes well for us as the individual Americans. And so that's a hard one because the question is what's more important, or not what's more important. The question is, can you cut rates right now, not spike inflation, or not add fuel to inflation,
Right.
and help our interest payments?
Right.
I mean, it's a juggling act. So I don't know, but those are the variables that I think are in the air.
Sure, sure, sure. Oil is unchanged in the pre-market. Brent is up, I mean, down just a tad, but we're sitting at 72 for Texas Intermediate and Brent at 75.73. We got natural gas coming down 0.74%. So it had gone up, it had gone down, it had gone up. So natural gas has been flip-flopping around. One thing that's not flipping around, which is part of this whole story that we were just telling, is gold sitting at 27.60 and 30 cents. All-time high again, and silver following behind at 30, almost $35. The all-time high there is 38, and that was a specific situation, which really doesn't count in determining the all-time high. So it really is technically asterisk at the all-time
Yeah,
high. So what do you think about these precious metals being just continuing to scream?
I think it goes back to what I was saying, where you're gonna like. I don't think the Trump trade is just in the stock market. It's assets in general. And I think you're seeing assets start to inflate. I do think some of it has to do with the fact that the US has crazy debt levels, obviously. But I also think that the reason, if the market thought Kamala was going to win the presidency, I don't think we'd be sitting here at all time highs. I don't think you'd see Meta soaring. I don't think you'd see Apple soaring. I don't think you would see Nvidia soaring. They're great companies that are doing really well in their own right. Their numbers look good and everything, but I truly think that if they thought Kamala was going to win, that you'd kind of see things a lot more. Do you see a lot more volatility in the markets?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we have basically I just yeah, we have the dollar basically, I mean, it's up against the yen a little bit, 0.13% in the pre-market, basically flat against the euro. We've got crypto coming back down again, down 520 at 67,000 again. It had been shooting, looking like it was going to go to 70, but now it's backed off. People are talking about this might be part of the Trump trade, but because they think Trump will actually get the government more involved in Bitcoin, into crypto in general. But now it's backing off again. So I don't know. It's a little hard to figure. Equities for tomorrow, Dow Jones, 116 negative in the pre-market at 0.27%. S&P only 3.25 negative at 0.06%. NASDAQ similar, 12.75 negative at 0.06%. But the Dow doing another flop like it did earlier today. So
Yeah, Dow 2 negative days in a row. So
yeah, I mean the Dow came back, but will this now was that the false flag? It was
yeah.
came back as opposed to when it went down big early. Well, there we have it. Any last thoughts for today?
Yeah, just let's talk a little bit more about this. I think there's a very interesting thing happening right now with betting markets and the election.
Yeah,
Um, right now you're seeing a huge pivot towards a Trump versus Harris
23
candidacy.
points. 23 points of difference.
More than that, actually,
I was looking at the Real Clear
30 points. Okay,
average, the Real Clear Politics average on the betting markets.
gotcha. Yeah, so Polymarket has a 30-point spread here,
30
35,
points. 30
65 to
points.
35. Yeah, 65 to 35. Um, I hear a lot of people talking about how these betting markets are outside of the states and how they're not really accurate and the polls are saying different things and all this. That's a lot closer of a race. I do think that the math of it is kind of closer than it may seem because each swing state kind of has a like a 1-2% one way or the other, and obviously that could quickly slip and swing the other way. So no matter who you're voting for, go out and vote. Don't take for granted. Like you should go vote. I don't care who you vote for. I really don't. I think it's as citizens, you you have the right and, in my opinion, the obligation to vote. We're in the greatest nation, the greatest experiment to have ever happened, and you see that people from all around the world are trying to swarm into our country. We're the only country in the world that needs to keep people out because everybody wants to be here. Don't take that for granted. Too many people take for granted living in this country. Go vote. No matter if you're red, blue, green, doesn't matter. Go vote. It's your duty to vote. But with that said, November 5th, if we don't have a result on November 5th or early morning November 6th, and we see that the betting markets are the way they are, I think we see where the sentiment is. Like, I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything like that,
Right.
but it does seem like the country is at a tipping point. And I know that's something that like you kind of hear a lot in general. Like, it seems like every election is like, oh, the most important election. But I and I know, again, same thing. Everybody always says things have never felt so tense or whatever. But look, we have a candidate attempting to be assassinated. We saw another candidate get swapped out. Like, this is a different election.
Yeah.
Like we've never seen. The last time I think we saw any type of real assassination attempt was Reagan. I mean, I'm sure there are things like with Bush and Clinton, Obama that are here or there, but like these are candidates. Okay, this is a little different. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just go vote. I mean, this I think between now the next is 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks away.
Yep.
This is what's on top of my mind, Randy, and it just seems like we just have such an opportunity. Obviously, my biases are doesn't mean I'm right. I think I'm right, obviously, but doesn't mean I am. What I think is most important is everybody go vote, make your voices heard. No matter what the outcome is, let's at least make this the highest turnout period. So that's all.
All right. Well, with that said, I want to know in the comments below whether you liked our blooper reel and whether you'd like to do way more bloopers in the future. This would be something that might be easy for us. It actually might be easier to do than to do them well. But hopefully there was
That's
enough
true.
great content, enough interesting stuff in there that you'll hit the like button and all that stuff that you know to do. So
Yeah.
again, yeah, go ahead. Yes, yes.
I was gonna say you're supposed to say it at the beginning, hit the like, but not the very end when we've lost everybody.
Everybody's already gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
except the diehards, all the good guys. The
If you're
really
still on, if you're still on, let us know what you're drinking in the comments.
Thanks, Nicholas, for coming on as usual. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.